Welcome to Digital Asset News. To get top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. Today, exciting stuff. First up, this is hot off the presses. Coinbase Wallet is going to make it easier for you to earn interest through DeFi apps by a lending platform, so you can now lend out your cryptocurrency and make money off it. Fantastic stuff. Also, Ripple chief blasts cryptocurrency scammers as 1.4 million XRP reportedly stolen through Google Chrome. And this is amazing to me because XRP gets stolen every single day on YouTube, which is why we do the scam of the day, which we will go over at the very end of this video. So it's good to see that Ripple's getting into the party. So let's jump into today's stories. First up, I saw this. Fantastic. So Coinbase Wallet makes it easier to earn interest through DeFi apps. What's going on? So this is from the Coinbase blog, and they state, today we're announcing that you can now lend out your crypto and earn interest on decentralized finance apps through Coinbase Wallet. And before I go on, I just want to talk about that the prices of cryptocurrency digital assets today are not that much. But this video, if we could look at this, hopefully YouTube's around in 5 years, who knows? But in 5 years, can you imagine what the prices are going to be for the cryptocurrency that you've bought today and what you're going to lend it out as? And as far as your interest rate that you could get, I mean, this could be like the easiest way to set yourself up for life. And this is why I truly believe that Ethereum is going to have big things ahead of it, especially because everything's built on ERC20 tokens. And Ethereum is all about smart contracts and DeFi. But let's break into this. So earning interest at rates ranging up to 6% APR, so. I'm sure those will fluctuate. And it just talks about the easiest way to earn interest on your crypto is going to be through their app. And you can do it in a number of ways, number of different digital assets. So let's just scroll down. It states you can cash out by withdrawing the crypto from the smart contract back to your wallet. This feature is available to users around the world on day one. We're rolling out on iOS this week, and Android will follow in the coming weeks. How DeFi loans work. So DeFi borrowing and lending apps are smart contracts or programs that run on Ethereum blockchain. And right after this, we're going to talk about smart contracts. But it states after you deposit, this is how it works. After you deposit your crypto into the DeFi contract, the smart contract, this contract then loans your crypto out to borrowers who pay interest. The contract dynamically manages interest rates based on the supply and demand for loans. So there's going to be some way that they're going to be able to look at these interest rates and fluctuate to give you the right percentage of APR kickback. Well, not kickback, but payment for your loan. DeFi loans are backed by collateral from the borrower. So, for example, if a borrower wants to borrow $50, they might need to lock up at least 100 of the crypto on the blockchain as collateral first. Exact requirements vary by contract. If the borrower does not repay or if the collateral value falls below a certain level, the contract attempts to sell that collateral to recover the debt and repay lenders. Here's where I see a potential problem. So, if they are putting up cryptocurrency, let's say they put it up on March 1st. And they put up one Bitcoin, which was, I think, let's say 8,500, 9,000. And then March 12th rolls around, and then we have that huge slide, and now it's worth 4,900. So not too good for you right now. It's very volatile. It's risky, and we'll talk about the risk. But I think moving forward, it's a fantastic option. But again, right now, risky. At the time of publication, you can lend out Ethereum and a variety of Ethereum-based tokens such as USDC, DAI, BAT, that's interesting, Basic Attention Token, REP, WBTC, and ZRX, which is 0x. So interest rates currently vary from 0.03%, it's awful, to 4.1% depending on the coin and contract you choose. Proceed with caution. This is what I was talking about. Before you get started, please be aware that DeFi lending apps are relatively nascent and come with risks. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's coming with risks. DeFi apps are programs running on the blockchain, and like any computer code, they can potentially have bugs that cause you to lose money, returns are not guaranteed, and your deposits are not insured. We'll talk about instilling confidence into you to get on this platform. I just read that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So me personally, I'm going to sit back and wait on this one. Let me know what you're going to do if you're going to jump into this and be the pioneer. If you are, hats off to you, high salute. let's see how that goes, and let me know what you're going to do. I'd love to hear it. But before we move on to the Ripple issue, I want to talk about what's a smart contract. And I've been putting this together for a bit. I need to answer some questions that I keep getting again and again and again and again. These are either in the comment section or in my Facebook group, where people ask me questions like, what's Bitcoin? What's blockchain? How do I use this ledger? How do I get these things off the exchange? So in this little mini presentation, let's talk about, first of all, what's blockchain, which is going to be a review for everybody. Also, what is a smart contract? And lastly, we're going to talk about what an oracle is and why I believe that these are going to be the biggest setups for big gains moving forward. So let's jump into it and see how it goes. So let's break it down. So it comes down to what's blockchain, what's a smart contract, and what's an oracle. So blockchain, just to make it basic for those of you who don't know, is a distributed ledger technology. Ledger being the key word. Well, what's a ledger? So a ledger is essentially this. It is a spreadsheet used in accounting where you can have debits, credits, and balances. And this is essentially just a spreadsheet. Very simple. This is a ledger. Right there. So what's a distributed ledger? Well, a distributed ledger would be the same thing, ledger, debits, credits, and balances that you might see in your accounting or in your bank or wherever else. And distributed means that it is going all over the place. It is in different computers or it is in different nodes, but in some way, shape, or form, it is being cast out to different not platforms, but into different systems. So it's not just sitting on one computer in one place. It is distributed. Pretty simple, right? Now, when you do something like this, when you distribute it out to all the different individuals or to different nodes or different computers, whatever you want to call it, we would consider this somewhat decentralized. And there is just little nuances and caveats there, but essentially that's what it is. So imagine if you had your ledger and you wanted to decentralize it, you wanted to put it out to all different areas, you can have it on different nodes, different computers, and it could be something as simple as 10 or 20, or you could have something as big as like thousands of computers, depending on what kind of distributed ledger that you wanted to do. Bitcoin, for example, has thousands of different nodes out there. So the difference between a distributed ledger and a non-distributed centralized ledger is pretty simple. So a non-distributed centralized ledger is something that you would see in your bank, where they have their little computer program and they have their ledger, and that is for your account and all the people's accounts are in the bank, and it's what we've been using for decades so far. And all the information is stored on there and is not going out to any way, shape, or form to anybody else. It sits just inside a centralized bank. So the problem with that is that they are changeable, they are mutable. There's a lot of problems with banks. People don't trust them, and this is one of those reasons. Now they say that of course, they're like, oh, we don't change this types of thing, but of course for accounting and all those types of services, you can change that just with the quick tap on the keyboard or a swipe of the pen. Happens all the time. Take a look at Enron. So it can be lost or destroyed if you have one centralized type of ledger. If some kind of natural disaster, of course, it can be wiped away. And it's easily hackable. Banks pay, banks pay billions of dollars to make sure that they are not hacked, and they go through rigorous checks and balances to make sure this doesn't happen, and they still get hacked, and it still happens all the time. And then you just have to trust it, because the thing with these centralized ledgers is that you do not have access to them to see what is on the ledger itself. So if there's some kind of changes, or for some other corporations or things like that, you just have to kind of trust it that the bank's doing what they say they're doing. And I got to tell you, for my reference, there are some times I have to call the bank, like, hey, this isn't correct. What did you guys do? That's a problem. So banks are hard to trust, and we can see that throughout history. We can see that through the actual most common or the most recent things happening, like Bank of America paying $16 billion in Justice Department settlement, or things like the JP Morgan Chase scandal, $30 billion in fines and counting. And you have something like the Wells Fargo account fraud scandal just happened recently, or you have Dutch bank ING fined $900 million for spotting money laundering. Then you have something like Enron, where you have the the corporations, the conglomerates, and they just run wild with their accounting services because they have a centralized ledger and no one can see it and they can change the books, and that's where fraud happens. So that's a problem. So distributed or decentralized ledger technology is pretty simple. So we have a ledger that is going around through all different nodes, all different types of computers. It is non-changeable or immutable, as they call it, because it's very simple. When you have it in all different types of computers or all different types of nodes like Bitcoin is, that blockchain or that distributed ledger technology goes to each and every one of those different nodes or those computers, whatever you want to call it, and it verifies all the transactions. So you can't change anything if thousands upon thousands of people have it. Also, it can't be lost or destroyed because you have multiple different nodes throughout everywhere else, and it has these blockchains, and it has a distributed ledger technology, so it is everywhere. Very tough to destroy thousands upon thousands of nodes. Also, it's impossible to hack because if you change one ledger, you'd have to change the thousands of other ones. So it's very tough to hack as opposed to going to the bank, breaking into the bank as far as a hacker goes, and stealing those types of funds, which happens more often than not. And it also happens with your personal data, which we can see in the different data breaches that we have for TransUnion and those types of credit reports. And also, it is trustless because with everybody within the network, you don't have to specifically say, okay, bank, or okay, centralized figure, I trust you to make sure you're doing the right thing. You don't have to do that because it is the power of the group, because it goes through all these thousands of nodes and everything kind of works itself out because you can't change anything, which is pretty nice. So blockchain, real quick, is distributed ledger technology. Blockchain is a part of distributed ledger technology. So it is a ledger, which we talk about, that's decentralized, and all transactions are recorded by chaining them together in blocks of encrypted data. That's why it's called blockchain, right? So we'll have somebody does a transaction, and that's block 51 out of thousands of blocks, and they encrypt it. Next one is block 52. Someone else does a transaction, and they encrypt that. And then block 53, and they encrypt that. And that is essentially blockchain. So you have these chains and chains and chains and chains of blocks in distributed ledger technology. And it has these blocks, and they're all together, and it is broadcast to all these different nodes. And again, it could be 10, 20, or thousands, depending on the cryptocurrency asset. Again, Bitcoin has thousands. Somebody like EOS has blockchain producers where they only have 21, just depending. But they are all over, and that's why it's a trustless, pureless type of technology. So there is one caveat here. Distributed ledger technology and blockchain. DLT is blockchain, blockchain is DLT, but to break it down into simple terms, these are cars. Here's a car. Here also is a car. And this is also a car. We can all agree they're all cars. Some are a little bit more expensive than others. Some a little bit faster. Some run on gas. Some run on electricity. Some look pretty flashy, and some are not. But they are all cars. Now, blockchain is the same type of thing, distributed ledger technology is the same type of thing. So these are all types of distributed ledger technology. Blockchain, which is what we just talked about. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and we have between 7 and 56 transactions per second. Just as a mode of reference, Visa is around 15,000 and 25,000. It'll come up in a second. So that is blockchain. Now, DAG, or directed acyclic graph, is another type of cryptocurrency like IOTA and Ryblocks, and they have been reported, or they state that they can go between 1,500 and 7,000 transactions per second. That is debatable because I don't believe it's actually been proven so far, but it's what they say. And there's another type of distributed ledger technology. It's called Tempo or Time Logic Protocol, like Radix, and they have 1 million transactions per second. But again, they are all distributed ledger technology. It's just that they are grouped together in different ways and are just, some are a little bit slower, some a little bit faster, some are more safer, I guess you would say. But they are all distributed ledger technology. And as a point of reference, Visa has between 1,700 and 24,000 transactions per second because they have such a high amount of transactions globally, which Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin really can't match at this point. So, Real quick, blockchain is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is blockchain, like we just talked about. It's non-changeable, immutable, impossible to hack, trustless, and transparent. Plus, it is also divisible. So what's great about Bitcoin is that you don't have to buy one Bitcoin. You can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. Those are called Satoshis. And unlike stocks, where you can only buy, one stock, or you can't buy a part of the stock, with Bitcoin and any cryptocurrency, you can break it down into hundreds of thousands of different Satoshis, which would equal one Bitcoin, which is very divisible, unlike gold. Again, you can't really break that down unless you melt it down. Also, it's easily portable. You can move Bitcoin across the world in a couple minutes or so, very cheap, whereas opposed to gold, it's going to cost you a lot of money to move it around, and it's very heavy, so that's pretty tough. So it's Bitcoin a little bit better than gold right now, and it is also censorship resistant. When I say portable, that would be a good thing if you were in, I don't know, some type of communist country where they go to seize all your assets. Great thing is that if you have gold on you, well, they're probably going to take it. But with Bitcoin, they can't take Bitcoin. It lives in all those nodes, in all those computers, in all those sections. And it is a distributed ledger technology like we just talked about. So good luck getting that. And finally, it is finite. And when I say finite, I mean that there are only 21 million that will ever be produced. And right now we were sitting around 18.5 million or so. So there is only 21 million, unlike the US dollar, the Chinese yuan, the euro, the pounds, the peso. Those can be printed at will. Right now we're going through quantitative easing, where the Federal Reserve is just printing willy-nilly. They can print as much money as they want to, which might lead to hyperinflation. With Bitcoin, that can never happen because there is 21 million only. And again, it is divisible, so you could have, I believe in the future, we're not going to see people just holding one Bitcoin. It's going to be thousands of a Bitcoin because it is so divisible. And that takes us up to what's blockchain. I think we solved that. Let's take a look at what's an actual smart contract. So regular contracts, pretty simple. We have things like will and trust, home mortgage, rentals, buying a car, lending, not DeFi lending, but just regular lending and voting. So with regular contracts, it takes 1 to 3 days sometimes. Manual remittance means you actually have to go manually pay it. You might need an escrow if you're going through home mortgage. It's expensive because there's so many layers and there's all these different third parties involved. You have to physically be there, have a wet signature, and maybe a notary public. And sometimes lawyers are necessary. So it gets very expensive for regular contracts. Now, smart contracts, a little bit different. You can execute an agreement on a blockchain automatically without a third party. So essentially, you're eliminating the middleman, and you can decrease errors, cost, and time. And usually, when we think about smart contracts, we think Cardano, EOS, but basically, it's mostly with Ethereum right now. Ethereum is the main player in this stage. So the agreement could be anything as far as smart contracts. It could be lending money or crypto, storing your medical data, buying or selling a home, process an insurance claim, vote an election, anything that could happen between two parties. So if you take a look at smart contracts and we look at the old way for regular placed contracts that we have today, 1 to 3 days, manual remittance, escrow expensive, lawyers necessary, right? These are for wills, home mortgage, everything we just talked about before. So with this one, we can say, hey, look, instead of taking 1 to 3 days, it's only going to take minutes. Now they have a smart contract. Instead of manual remittance, it's automatic. It's automatically taken off the blockchain for whatever that you've decided to use, usually Ethereum. Escrow is necessary. Escrow may not be necessary if we're going to do home mortgages. Expensive, not so much because we're eliminating the middle person, so it's a fraction of the cost. And you don't need physical presence because it's just a digital signature. And lawyers may not be necessary, so you're saving a ton of time and money. So, what's blockchain? Answer that. What's a smart contract? Answer that. Let's talk about what's an oracle. So here's the problem. With smart contracts, they cannot access off-chain data. So if you have your Ethereum, that can only take the data on that blockchain. It can't pull out data like the escrow. It can't pull out data like your identification. It just can't do those types of things because it's confined to the blockchain itself. And that's a problem. So here's a solution. we have what's called an oracle. And an oracle is able to pull in off-chain data. So the things that might be needed for these types of instances, if you have like a will and trust, you're going to set it up for your kids later on, you're probably going to need an account where they can pull the actual money from. So we're going to need to pull that from off-chain data. Home mortgage, they probably have to pull your credit report, among other things. Rentals, they might need a background check. Buying a car, you're going to need to check out your insurance. And then if you're going to do like DeFi lending, you're going to need to check the rates as they fluctuate greatly from day to day, week to week. And if you're going to do buying a car, insurance, and voting, of course, you're going to have to prove identity. So these are all the things that we're going to need that we're going to have to pull off-chain, which is why we need an oracle. So the thing is, if you don't have an oracle, you can't pull this data at all into your smart contract. So really, it comes down to you need some type of cryptocurrency that is an oracle, which can pull these, think of it like an API. It's going to pull these credit reports, this insurance, this personal information, everything that you could think of to do to pull off-chain data can pull into these smart contracts to actually verify it so it can actually execute. But here's the problem. The problem is if you can hack the oracle, you can hack all these places. Or if you think of it this way, if you have one oracle and it's only referencing one point, for instance, they could in some way, shape, or form hack your identity and change your identity, and then the smart contract would still execute because it has just one point of where it's checking. Same thing with if you're looking for your information on your credit report and they hack into that, or insurance, they somehow hack into that, or they just hack the actual oracle itself and they pull falsified data. They can do whatever they want to. So here's what we need, what's called an oracle. And the solution is one of these oracles is Chainlink. So Chainlink is going to not just take one reference point, it's going to take multiple data reference points. So instead of just looking at, we'll say like the DMV for your personal identification, it could look at other things like maybe pulling information for your birth certificate, or maybe other types of background checks. And it can go for all the different types or different organizations that have this information and pull all this data from everywhere to verify it. And the more that we have, the less chance that we'll get hacked and this smart contract can actually execute. So you can see why these types of oracles are going to be very important in the future, especially with all the different scams and different hacking that is going on, which I see is going to be a major problem, which is why I believe in Chainlink. So I think we've answered the question of what's a blockchain, what's a smart contract, and what's an oracle. All right, next up. Ripple chief blasts cryptocurrency scammers as 1.4 million XRP reportedly stolen through a Google Chrome. This was an app or a download that you could get through Google Chrome, and it would ask you for your private keys and then pretty much just rip you off. So apparently Ripple found out about this and they got all bent out of shape. So Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse is slamming the cyber thieves behind a fake YouTube account as attempting to lure viewers into participating in an XRP giveaway scam. Really? Enough is enough. In a time of global crisis when people are especially vulnerable, social platforms need to hold scammers, crypto and otherwise, accountable for stealing money from innocent victims with fake giveaways. My semi-annual PSA, and I have not, nor will we ever, conduct a giveaway like the scams that continuously pop up impersonating me on YouTube, Instagram, blah, 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 whatever. So the thing is, first of all, I'm glad they joined the party. But we have been doing this since January, trying to get rid of all these YouTube scams. It is amazing to me that YouTube is able to flag and take down videos from reputable YouTubers that are talking about legit projects on cryptocurrency digital assets, yet for some reason the scams that we've been reporting time and time again do not get removed. So what's going on? Hopefully, maybe with Ripple getting into the fray, we can take more of these down. So I'm glad that Ripple's here. A little late, but better late than never. And moving on. Really moving on. It states here, in response to numerous XRP giveaways, scams, and impersonations, Ripple has hired an external cybersecurity and digital threat intelligence vendor to help with reporting and takedown efforts. Additionally, we have built our own submission form for the community to report unusual activity, and I'll link that in the description. So, great news. we've got help. So speaking of which, let's break into a scam of the day, because we know the wheels of justice turn slow. So scam of the day, if you're not familiar, we started this in January because I was sick and tired of getting people telling me they got screwed over by scams. And I was sick and tired of seeing these scams in my feed. So we started this up and we've been pretty successful. These are the ones we find. This is when they get removed. So in January, we've done a pretty solid job. Now, for some reason, we're hitting a hiccup. This one here, it is the 26th? It's the 26th of March. This thing's been going on for a month. This is ridiculous. I report this every day. You guys report this every day. What are we going to do? So one person said, why don't you just move on? Well, we can't move on because someone's still there. So these are the ones that we find. I could list 30 different scams below here. And the majority of you would not do all of them. I can guarantee that because there's just too much to do. So I try to make it underwhelming so we can just take care of like 4 or 5 at a time and then move on. It's better than anybody else is doing, let's be honest. So let's just stay in our lane and do what we can do, fight the good fight. So in the description of every one of my videos, there's going to be a link. It's going to say scam of the day. You're going to click on that. It's going to bring you this handy dandy Google spreadsheet. You're going to click on this link right back here, and it's going to take you to this present day scam, which of course is still up because, you know, nothing ever gets taken down, even though we've been working so hard. It seems like we're just in a stalemate with these guys. I don't understand. And I've reported all of these ones multiple times. So sometimes it's just like losing weight. Some days, you know, you feel pretty good, like, yeah, I've lost some weight, I feel pretty good. And other days it's like pounds just stay on. So you just keep you know, going for it and going for it and going for it, and eventually you'll hit your goal. Same thing with this nonsense. So what are we looking for? You can't just take my word for it. How do we know this is a scam? Well, first of all, let's take a look at all these awesome comments. And everybody seems to think it's a scam, especially One Mullet. So maybe these guys are just haters. Maybe One Mullet hates Binance airdrops. You maybe just can't stand them. So what we're looking for to figure out that it's a scam is it's an asymmetrical giveaway. What do I mean? Well, it says here, if you send 1 Bitcoin, you'll be airdropped 5 Bitcoin. If you send 5 Bitcoin, you'll be airdropped 25 Bitcoin. No one's doing that. Good rule of thumb, if you ever think it's a scam, it's a scam. Second of all, if you want to verify it, go to the official website. Go to Binance, ask them if they're giving this stuff away. They're going to tell you no. Go to Ripple, say you're giving away free stuff. No. Go to Kraken, go to Gemini, go to wherever. They're all going to tell you no. We're not giving away free stuff. We're not in the business to give away. So what do? First, we're going to downvote. Click on that. Second thing, we're going to click on these 3 dots, click report. And pretty simply, we're going to say it's a spam or misleading. Scams and fraud. We're going to click next. We're going to say, hey, scam, exclamation point, report, done. So it's going to take you 20 seconds with the load time maybe. And then that's it. If you could do that, I'd be greatly appreciated. I know that it seems kind of redundant to this every single day, but if we keep punching at that heavy bag, at some point it'll break. Okay, so that's it for today's video. Thanks for sticking with me. It's kind of long, but we had to go through that description. I'm probably going to break that that presentation and put it in my playlist as far as like the basics. But let me know what you thought. Let me know in the description below. If you like these videos, there's going to be 2 more that's going to pop up on your left and right. Don't know which ones they are. But that is it for today. Thanks for sticking with me. See you on the next one.